Hi, I'm Denise Griffitts, and this is your partner in Success Radio. And my guest today is Joshua Hale, and his mission is to make AI approachable and actionable for small business owners who want to grow without sacrificing their values, their creativity, or their own voice, or connection to the people they serve. And today's episode is brought to you by Pod Assist, PODASSIST, helping podcasters streamline production and stay focused on what they do best. And as we talk about practical AI today, smarter systems and using technology without overwhelm, it's a perfect time to thank Matt Mooney and the team at podassist.com for supporting creators behind the scenes. Technology, I can't even talk this morning. Technology should support your mission, not distract from it. And it's exactly what Pod Assist helps podcasters do every day. My only excuse is Friday. I'm tired. So now back to my guest. Joshua Hale is a visionary entrepreneur. He's an AI mentor, a digital marketer, and modern homesteader. I love that part. We'll talk about it. Dedicated to helping entrepreneurs adopt AI in practical, ethical, and sustainable ways. And with more than 12 years of experience in digital marketing and AI-driven business strategy, Joshua has helped businesses scale, grow, and in many cases, reach their first seven figures. And as the creator of Beyond the Matrix operating system, he combines cutting-edge technology with deeply human approach to business, wellness, and entrepreneurship. Joshua, welcome back to the show. And you're going to do all the talking. I think I'm worn out already.
Denise, thanks so much for having me on. Been looking forward to getting back to our conversation. A lot's happened in the last 6 months.
I know the last time you were here, and it was late last year in December, I think, we talked about critical thinking in the age of AI, and it's good to have you back. I really have been looking forward to catching up and tracking you, seeing what you're up to.
Well, like I said, a lot's happened, and just AI itself has drastically shifted in like what it is, what it does, what it can do, and like what's coming up that people need to be aware of because there is like no public debate about this stuff. And so what you're being sold to is a lot of hype marketing jargon. But then there's the like anti-AI crowds you probably see online,
Oh,
and
yeah.
nobody's having like the nuanced conversations of like what this technology is and how we can use it for good.
Well, everybody is talking about AI like you need a PhD and 17 subscriptions
Mhm.
just to survive in business, and that's just not so.
That's right. Yeah.
And most entrepreneurs don't need more complexity. We want it to not dumb it down, but simplify it.
Yeah, that's been my goal this last quarter is with everything that I've created in the last 3 years, like with the assistance of AI, now I need to just simplify down to the core. So that's a really good main point for today.
Well, and you and I were talking about Claude earlier in the green room, and my sister, who is not at all techie, I build her websites. I write a lot of her documents for. She's a brilliant businesswoman, but she's not techie. Never has been, never will be. I got a text from her at 3:30 this morning because she knows I'm awake. She says, "I love Claude." It's like, I know, right? Yeah. So
Well, and that's the thing, right? You said she's not techie and never will be, but that's really
not.
not true anymore. Like anything that you thought you weren't, you now have this like, kind of teammate that can do these things that you can direct and be able to like accomplish this stuff. So that is like one of the most empowering things that people are not giving enough credit.
And I have another, and I'm so proud of both of these women. Excuse me. I have a lady that I'm coaching her to build her very first podcast. And in the initial conversation I was having with her, I said, "Are you using, AI?" No. She was afraid of it. A lot of people are, and you mentioned that. And I said, "Well, you really need to be looking at Chat GPT, but most importantly, I think Claude." And I gave her her first week's homework, and she went to both of them. She gave me everything I needed. She got so excited. I mean, she just jumped in and ran with it. Now she's like me, like my sister. I love Claude. I know. Don't we all, sir? But you have to know what you're doing with it, and that's where you come in.
Yeah, and the podcast is a perfect example, right? I helped some clients with podcasts 5 years ago. I've attempted my own, and there are so many moving parts just to get from this like great conversation right now published and out there for people to listen to. And it requires multiple like skill sets and workflows just to get it like done, right?
It does. And if you're like me and people say, "Oh, Denise, you've got a great team," you're talking to her.
Yeah,
My
exactly.
podcast is so important, I'm not turning it over to anybody ever.
5 years ago, 10 years ago, it cost a lot of money because
Yeah,
there was no way you could do it all yourself, and that's no longer the case. And it was starting to become that way, before AI, but now with AI, all the preliminary research, you can get a report on your guests before you meet with them automatically now with AI. It can help you
perplexity, I do that. Yeah,
exactly.
I
And
will, and I've had people say, Josh, that, because 'cause I'll tell them I do the pre-interviews because most of my guests come from bookers, and I'll say, "Okay, I will go to Perplexity for research always." And I'll say, "Tell me about this person, his book, and whatever he's up to, and would he
mhm.
be," and this is important, "would he be a good guest for my podcast?" And the answer comes back, "Yes," or maybe not." It tells me why, it gives me links, it gives me everything I need. So
You
I
can do
always
that in 5 minutes instead of, 50
Right,
minutes.
right, and I've told that to some of the people that I'm pre-interviewing, they go, "I what did they say about me?" 'Cause you always wanna know. I
Yeah.
said, "It was all good things," and I'll just send the document to them, and they're like, "Oh." So, my point here is we're not going to get away from AI, we need to embrace it, love it, and learn how to properly use it, and that's where you come in.
Yeah, and I'll kinda just update everybody on what's happened in the last 6 months because AI just shifted. Now, I think I said this in the last podcast, AI as a term is super vague. It's an algorithm that's been being developed for, like, 80 years now, and in 2016, large language models came out. They figured out these chatbots, if they threw a bunch of information at them, they started making sense, and so that's what they did. They scooped up the whole internet, fed it to these, models, and then all of a sudden we had ChatGPT 3. And from there, it's been a race, which we can like has been a race to develop these models. And I think it's a bit artificial. Like they're saying we need to, beat China to AGI, artificial general intelligence. But I think that's actually a marketing ploy in order to go faster than it needs to be. Go faster than what's safe. Um, and so now we have these large language models, and they have amazing capabilities, like we've been just talking about. But in the last 6 months, they have shifted from this conversation that speak like in ChatGPT, right? And then you would have to copy and paste and go do something with what it generates. And what
Which you
shift
should never do, by the way. We'll talk about that too.
Well, right, and like when it is in regard to writing, I use it. I come up with ideas. I then help it shape the structure of how I want to write it, and then I clean it up afterwards. And I mentioned the 10-80-10 in the last podcast of 10% you, 80% now can be AI, but you always want to follow up with that 10-20% at the end to shape it into your voice, what you actually want to create in the world. And from this point on, things have shifted to where it's no longer this copy paste interaction. AI is now doing stuff. So Claude, which is created by Anthropic, they have developed something called MCP, a protocol. I'm skipping on the MC part, but it's basically a little tool that allows a handshake to take place between the models and tools that we all use. Our Google calendars, Zoom, like all these softwares that we already have accounts with and that we use daily. AI can now go and shake hands with them and take actions without like compromising the security and integrity of those softwares. So what just happened early this year? This is like in February when this technology like universally everybody's like, yes, this is a really good way of doing things. We're all going to use this moving forward. And so then Claude Code came out, and then Claude Cowork came out. And that's where things
Yeah.
really shifted.
And I'm telling you, I will never get married again. I've been married twice. I've done my time, but if I could, I would marry Claude or at least get engaged. You know, that's how much I love Claude.
So when it first came out, it was still like super nerdy and like I really wasn't comfortable touching it, right? It's Claude Code, which, is creates code and then you got to go do something with it. But what happened shortly after, a software came out called OpenClaw that, well, first it was called ClaudeBot, but then Claude didn't like that, and so sent a cease and desist, and so then they changed the name to OpenClaw. OpenClaw was an open source harness for any AI models out there. So it basically gave you a place to talk to any model that you wanted, and it lived outside of the chat window or the website of Claude or ChatGPT. And so when I lost like about 2 weeks of sleep, like checking this thing out. And when it started talking to me through, I set it up to talk to me through Discord, which is a communication software. And now I talk to it through Telegram, but you can bring the conversation into what software that or whatever DM system that you use. And once it started talking to me there, I had this holy cow moment that this is no longer like trapped inside of this chat conversation. It's now like a part of my computer, and I can talk to it on my phone. I can talk to it on my desktop, and it does stuff. And so this Open Claw came out and like blew everybody's expectations and like introduced the concept of like AI where you're at instead of needing to go and go to the Claude website, or go to the OpenAI or ChatGPT website to use this stuff. And Claude ended up adopting a lot of the features of OpenClaw. And ChatGPT actually hired the owner of OpenClaw, and so they're now working closely together. And this is where things quickly started to shift, kind of like based upon the popularity of like what the people wanted. And so Claude Cowork ended up adopting these features to where it could then write files on your computer. Now, sounds a little scary,
It's
but
it sounds frightening. It really does.
but this was another like holy cow moment that I had when I was able to direct it. Now, there's a lot of so OpenClaw had a lot of security features. Like the IT and security world were freaking out because they're like, you're exposing all your keys and your whole computer using this thing. And so Claude ended up taking a much more safer approach into utilizing or integrating the features while being able to like keep the enterprise security and safety of Claude. And so I tried OpenClaw for 2 weeks and then I like shut it down, deleted it. And I was like, whoa, this is kind of scary. Then Claude started introducing these features. And the first time that I pointed Claude at my computer, I gave it access to my download folder. Now, my download folder probably had like 70 gigs of random stuff that I've been downloading, right, for years. And I told it, can you organize this? That's all I said. It then got to work. It scanned through all of the downloads, went through all of the photos, renamed all the photos to what the photos actually represented, created a folder system inside of my download file, and then moved everything into those folders. And that was the first like thing I did, pointing it at my computer. Now,
And I need to do the same. I've been thinking about that all week, and I'm working on it this weekend. My desktop, I try to keep it clean, I really do, but I look at so
right?
I try. And I've got a giant screen, so, got a giant
Lots of room.
monitor,
Yeah.
lots of room, and I'll
Uh,
look at it and go, "Get 'em off. You've got to clean
I've
this
set this
up."
I've set this up for clients. I've set Claude Cowork up for clients and I'm like and they're
Really?
like they're showing me their desktop, embarrassed. And they're like, "I'm sorry, like this is just how I work." And to our credit, right? For the last 10 years, we have been overwhelmed with information and technology. Like, it has been completely inefficient. It's been really forced upon us, and with really incapable tools. And so I would say it's like not your fault, but now we have this technology stepping in. So it can clean up your desktop. You only give it access to parts of your computer that you feel comfortable with. And this is where I then realize a second issue of our data being held hostage. Now, there were some ethical concerns that took place earlier this year regarding ChatGPT and like the military, and then Claude and the military. Just to give like the bullet points, when America invaded Venezuela, they were using Claude's AI to like run that mission. And if
But
if
it
any
worked.
if any of you remember, right, it was like over before anybody even knew about it.
Yeah, what it like 8 hours or something, if?
Yeah,
I don't remember, but it was practically
fast, efficient.
spotless.
And
Right.
Claude ended up like bringing this up and being like, "Hey, did you guys happen to use our models on this mission? Because there was some humans killed in this mission, and we have, part of our mission and values of Anthropic is that we won't create AI that harms human beings."
Mhm.
The Pentagon didn't like this.
Well,
They didn't like their motives, and how they were using AI, being questioned. And so then they ended up having a standoff, and they threatened to throw out all of the contracts with Anthropic. And I I really appreciated it getting the like mainstream attention, because this is a very important topic, that we don't create AI that you know kills the human race. And
right, or
so,
a cat or a dog, anything.
yeah. So it got national attention, and Anthropic didn't back down, which was really impressive. The Pentagon threatened to not only cancel their contracts, but to then categorize them as like a national threat, and anybody contracting with Anthropic would have their contracts canceled as well. And we're talking like Amazon servers, like all these major infrastructures that also work with the military, that also were, contracting with Anthropic. So it was a big deal that they like stood up, and they gave him a deadline. The Pentagon gave him a deadline, and they didn't budge. So that was really impressive. At the same time, ChatGPT initially they're like, yeah, we don't want to, kill humans either. And then the very next day, OpenAI swept in and like took those contracts, and they're like, actually, we'll do it. And so there was a lot of ethics involved with being like,
Yeah,
actually, I don't want to give money, and I don't want to support an AI company that not only is like using AI to, harm humans, but also allowing domestic AI surveillance being used. Now, those were the 2 points that Anthropic and Claude stood up against. So, because of that, sorry about the tangent. Because of that, a lot of people wanted to migrate away from OpenAI to Claude, right? Because like people like ethics, and they like to put their money, in companies that share their same values. And the issue I saw upon doing that is ChatGPT, I've been talking to for like 3 years. I've been giving it all this detailed information about me, my personal information, my business, my clients, and it was essentially holding that information hostage behind a subscription in a black box.
and
Now,
what people let me interrupt just a bit, what people don't understand or don't know about any of these, it's not private. It's
no,
held somewhere. It's if you said bad words to Claude like I have done, he remembers. It's out there somewhere.
yeah, so now these companies, they want to maintain trust with their user base, and so they do promise, like enterprise security, that you can on the enterprise level, that your information won't be used to train it, your information safe. And they promise not to yeah, they promise privacy, but really your information is on their server. It
That's right.
can't a judge 2 months ago just ruled that your chat history is not protected by the client confidentiality, and so like it can be subpoenaed, and like that's now a thing. And on top of that, you don't own your data. Like you can't go in and make changes or even review it. So when I tried to transfer over from ChatGPT over to Claude, I ran into this problem. And I realized like this is not only a problem right now, but this is going to be a much bigger problem as we use these tools more and more in the next coming years. Right? This volume of data that it knows about you is extremely valuable, and that's kind of the point of why they are doing this in the first place. And so I figured out a way around that is creating a local AI memory system. And this is something that, I gave a workshop on and showing people how to do this. And it's creating a local MD file system so that whenever you get done with the day chatting away on these models, it updates itself on these local files on your computer. So you own that information. You have control over who is connected to it. And you're not being held hostage from a subscription, right? Because I was really frustrated that Claude didn't know, everything that ChatGPT knew, and now I have a system where I can connect, agents, I can connect Claude, I can connect ChatGPT to my file system, to the sections I wanted to give it access to, and it then has all that context because the context is what's super important with getting really good results. And I don't want to have to repeat myself, especially as I'm, moving through a project throughout the week of the progress of where I'm at, what's developed, what I've okayed for, what I've reviewed and approved to whatever tool I'm using, because that just creates massive problems. So creating a local AI memory system is clutch, and now moving into this more agentic form of AI where AI is now doing stuff. It can connect to your calendar, your emails, your transcripts from your meetings. It can connect to hundreds of tools, like I said, with that MCP handshake. And now it's like doing stuff with that, where I can have um, a discovery call maybe with somebody from your audience, and we can talk about where they're at, what challenges they have, and then right after that call I can just go to Claude and say, all right, summarize our conversation, highlight the next steps that we are going to of solutions that they can take, and put the email in my draft folder in my inbox. And I used to spend an hour writing proposals after these calls. And now, in 2 minutes, I can have that draft over there ready for my review. Now, I always, enforce a human review in the process. You never
Mhm.
want to. It can shoot out emails, but you don't want to like go there. Not
No.
not
No.
right now.
And
So
people are getting tricky, particularly about ChatGPT. The M dashes drive people crazy.
yeah.
If you see a, really nice looking article and you start reading it, you go, this is, all right, that was chat. You cheated. And
So
you didn't
that's
necessarily, but if you didn't clean it up
yeah.
and,
Break
like you
break
say, add
trust.
the human part of it, it does break trust. Yeah, it does. Absolutely.
Now, that's a fascinating topic called AI slop. And
What
there
is it?
is AI
AI slop.
slop. Yeah. Uh,
That's a new one. Keep talking.
so that's like a term that really came out kind of like early last year when image generation was still developing, the six finger issue. It had a really hard time generating fingers. And then AI video generation started to be a thing. There's a famous Will Smith video of him eating spaghetti with some of the early models that looked like horrific. And now, like within 2 years, there's like perfect, undetectable video generation taking place now. But the term
There
AI,
is. Have you ever heard of a little monkey in, I think it's Japan, called Punchy?
no, what is that?
He's very famous. He was a tiny little macaque. I can't say what kind of monkey he was, but tiny little monkey, and his mother rejected him. And he's in a zoo over there. And he was adopted by two of the keepers who take care of this zoo. and he was fading. I mean, he was rejected by every monkey in that compound. And I think it was IKEA that got him a monkey, a stuffed orange monkey. And
Oh,
he sleeps with it and he drags it all over. He's famous all over Twitter. And now people are like, oh, we're not getting enough punch, so they'll make them up and they're all AI. But I have to look at them twice and go, that's not real. You would not get that close.
yeah,
You would not be that close to, Punch and his little mama. You just wouldn't. So, but they're
yeah.
good. And I'm like, that's just cheating. Let the monkey live his life. But it's look for Punch or Punchy, Punchi. It's an
Dude,
adorable story.
I
I
will
go
look at
check him
that.
out. Yeah.
But it's a
But
great example that you can't
right.
trust anything online anymore. Like
You cannot. You
the
cannot.
image and video capabilities are like nearly undetectable. Like even an AI paranoid enthusiast like myself, I can't tell probably 6 out of 10 times. The average user, I'm guessing you'll be lucky if you catch it like 1 or 2 times, and that's right now. That's not in another like 4 months. And so we've crossed the point where this AI generated content is out there and it's becoming unrecognizable, and that's the point behind the AI slop. But the definition of it is changing because you can't really detect it anymore. Even the M dashes are kind of going away if you know how to work these things. And so people are now kind of calling AI slop anything generated by AI, which I don't think is accurate and very a very wise position to be in, because I argue with the anti AI crowds, because I think if you are just staunch anti AI, you're not learning and understanding what's capable, how to empower yourself with this new tool that's on the field, and being able to like know that you're being emotionally played, and that the outcome is going to leave you more ignorant and more vulnerable in this vastly evolving technological world that we're living in. So they sling the word AI slop at anything that they can like figure out is done by AI, and I think that's I would argue against overusing that word, because this stuff is being integrated into everything. Your Spotify, your YouTube, Google search is like changing rapidly right now. They just had a keynote conference last week announcing all the new Google features that are rolling out. And so pretty soon, AI is going to be integrated into everything you do online. And to, be mad at the tool instead of mad at the systems and the way it's being marketed to you, and those that are abusing it with power, I think is a misdirection of your attention.
I agree with you, and we hear this a lot. Oh, it's going to replace jobs. In some cases, it will.
Mhm.
Listen, I'm a web developer by trade, and I was arrogant enough to think, no, it's not going to replace me. Well, it took a while, and it hasn't replaced me, but I have had to change how I operate.
Well, and you're in a really great position because you're an expert in your field. You know what good
Am,
looks like.
am.
You know how to fix things. And now, like 2 weeks ago, I built 3 websites in the same week. I
I did too. I built one for my niece.
Yeah.
I didn't have any information. She and her husband bought this little garage in Monterey, California. And she said, Aunt Denise, I need a website, but she really couldn't give me much information. It was all kind of new. I went over to Claude Code, and within half a day, Claude had built the most
Exactly.
beautiful little website in WordPress, which is where I typically work. It would have taken me a few weeks to get
Yes.
the images, create the images, find a way to speak in her voice. And I just gave Claude, I mean, honestly, if I gave it 5 instructions, I might be lying. It might have been 4. And I, uploaded it, and I figured out how to do it using Elementor in WordPress. That's,
Nice.
you don't need to know about that, but you need to have it. And I sent it to her. She said, "Oh, I'm her favorite aunt." Oh, so, and I am very pleased with it. It was up. It was beautiful. It did exactly what I asked for,
That
and I
probably
didn't
took a
have
little finagling just to like
a
get it
little.
on
Yeah,
the website, and like
a little bit.
that part's going to be harder for non-web
For
developers.
non-tech, yeah, if you don't know what you're doing, it's not gonna work
Right,
properly, but
but you do. So,
yeah,
a good tool in the hands of an expert produces really great results. And
exactly. Tell me about the ones that you built, because I was shocked. I was like,
well,
"Let me go try," and at the end of the day, I was doing a little happy dance with the cat in the kitchen.
right. Well, here's my experience. So I used to run a marketing agency, and it would take a team of 8 copywriters, website developers, IT to help out with the domains and everything. It would take us like 2 months to, get the what the copy was supposed to be, what the design, the branding, and then build out. Like all that stuff took a ton of time and
Mhm.
a ton of money paying all those contractors to get this thing done. So, like I said, I was playing around, like developing my own funnels for trainings and stuff that I wanted to put out there in the world. Built 3 websites in the same week, and I experienced what's now is being called AI fatigue, meaning that the human brain doesn't have like unlimited capacity. And so I built so much so fast that I couldn't remember like what I just did. I what apps I just made, what websites I just launched, and I was just spinning with like recognizing how much effort and time this would have taken normally, that the design was the best design I've ever been a part of what just got produced and put up online. And then understanding like I did this all myself. I didn't need like all those hired hands in order to get something like this done. And AI fatigue hit me hard, where my like I just had to like walk away from technology. And luckily, we had a camping trip set up for last week. And so I was able to just like walk away from my desk, go camping. And there was no cell service where we were, a beautiful lake, campground with my family. And I just sat there like looking at the fire, dumbfounded, as my brain just like drained from all this like hyper productivity and like a realization of like what just happened, and that like we're not meant to like move that fast, but like AI is allowing us to move faster than what's really like healthy. And so I'm recognizing we need intentional bottlenecks around this technology, because if being productive can be addictive, right? For entrepreneurs, when you're excited about what you are putting out in the world and what you're creating, and like you're making progress. I get up early in the morning, I'm excited about what I get to do every day, and so I like to work with other people that are doing the same, and we can move a lot faster and cover a lot more distance. But like I said, there needs to be some downtime. We need to install review into this process, so that we're like walking away from the crazy productivity we can accomplish, and be able to just go sit pen and paper with our ideas, with reviewing what AI has generated, so that you're not just blindly just hitting go and accept every time it asks for direction, but you're able to just sit and like and really mull over these things. And then we need offline time, like more than ever. I just was reminded about deprivation tanks. I'm going to be doing this like probably every 2 weeks now, just to install space that my brain gets to like unload, because we can't keep up with what's now available at doing. Now this might be like freaking some of your audience out, just but as a digital professional like yourself, like these are things that used to take a long time to do, and now we can do it a lot faster. And so it doesn't mean we should be doing like more work. It means that we need to just design lives that we can that serves us, instead of us just in hyper productivity. What do you think about that?
I think you are describing my last month, literally.
Mhm.
I have a business partner, we're building apps, we're doing all kinds of things with Claude, and in fact, we have a call this afternoon to spend 3 or 4 hours going through what we're building, and it's hard to stop. It's like, "Oh, I got this. Oh, ooh, ooh, ooh," and you
Yeah.
just keep on going. You get very excited, And we have both of us experienced what you just discussed. I mean, we're tired. Our brains are sore, literally. So it's like I've got this spot in the back of my head, and I don't think my mama masked my soft spot too hard, but it feels like it. But yeah, it's just, I'm thinking I don't have a headache, but what's going on? And she put it brilliantly. I thought she said, Denise, your brain is rewiring, which is kind of what you just said. So this past weekend, which was Memorial Day, I deliberately put my brain into idle. I
Good.
closed my office door. I
Yeah.
wouldn't come in here. I didn't
Good.
come in here. I stayed off of everything unless I was reading a book. And that was it. I idled, and it
Now,
helped. It really did help.
as these things become more common, like if you're using Claude Cowork right now, you're part of the like 10% of the planet that is like riding this, progressive wave into what capabilities there are. The rest of society is in like 12, 18 months is going to like catch up to what we're doing right now. Now, we and I'm gonna paint the picture of like where this is going because right now we're drinking out of a fire hose, right? That's what we just said. And I see now the path forward that within 2 years we're going to be able to get to a point where we're less dependent on screens, less dependent on our desktop, our phones, and we're going to have a AI agent, which is remember that open claw that I was talking about where it just talks to you wherever you are. This is what I'm calling the Godfather life. Just like in the movie Godfather, he's sitting at the table and, he has people come up, whisper in his ear, and he's like, yeah, yeah, go ahead, do that, do that. Nope, don't do that. Right. And I'm heading towards a Godfather life where I'm able to develop these systems in the next, coming years to where I just have my agent check in with me in the morning, give me a report, and I get to just tell it what to build, what to stop and go about my day. All my notifications, all my messages, nothing is falling through the cracks. Everything is taken into account and I'm getting updates from my like chief of staff of like what my digital life needs and prioritized feedback. And I'm going to be able to just let it all go. Like you said, close the door, go enjoy life, knowing that nothing's slipping through the cracks because right now we're all juggling 20 balls in the air, right? And we're doing our best. But for the way technology has been developed over the last 10, 15 years, we cannot we cannot keep up with the information that's being thrown at us. And it's by design. Our phone, I get probably like 50 notifications a day on my phone. Social media is delivering way more information than we can consume. And just the news cycle, right? Used to be every evening you got the evening news and that was it in like an hour or hour's time. Now it's 24/7 news where you are constantly being bombarded. So we are in a time of information overload. I think it's part of, making everything worse, causing us stress, keeping us in fight or flight. And we need to create bottlenecks around this stuff, this technology and its access to us. And I really think just a little bit more technology is the solution to this, to where OpenAI is working on a new interface to AI, and it's going to be screenless. I'm thinking like the Star Trek button on their shirt, right? Where you're
Oh,
able,
yeah. Beam me up, Scotty.
yeah, you just tap it and you're like, all right, have a report on my desk of, the important things I need to focus on today. And I'll be over there, in a half hour.
Okay, I want that button.
So that's where things are going. We don't need to haul our phones around all day. We're not going to be missing anything. We're going to have a competent chief of staff keeping track of all that stuff for us so that we can like live our lives. And so if you're aware of these things and aware of the, infrastructure that's possible and be able to build these systems out so our digital lives keep, growing and building and bringing in revenue so we can actually live in this, hyper expensive world we're being thrown into, then we're able to create some, designed space in our lives. And that's the future that I want to hide or head to. And that's what I want to, that's what I'm teaching my audience on my newsletter and on my website. And in the trainings that I'm doing is how to build this stuff up and just like understand how it works right now. That's all you really need to do, like the capabilities, so that you can start seeing where in your life can become more efficient, right? Do you like the 200, 300 emails you're getting every day?
No,
Like, is there like 10 of them that you actually need to like be aware of and like respond to? How about creating a filter so that those things are being, reviewed and you're able to like get that information and that constant stress out of your head.
exactly. You had mentioned something earlier, and it's kinda goes to what you were just talking about, that you're creating, a local memory system. Can you tell us about that? Didn't you say you did a webinar or you've got training on that?
Yeah. So
Tell me about that.
I've been using it now for a little over 2 months, and there's like 1,200 individual files now built into that. So every day I have automatic, they're called cron jobs, but basically like scheduled tasks on both Claude and my AI agent called Hermes. And they update themselves. Now, I've always been, fascinated with, building a second brain and like ways to organize your information and file systems for the last, 10 years of productivity. But they never stuck. I always ended up getting lazy and not updating them. And then they just fall apart. And then they turn into this like black hole of data. But what shifted in the last 6 months is these AI systems will update themselves. So at the end of every day, it then creates a memory file in my AI memory system, updating what we accomplished that day, who was on the calendar, what emails came through, what meetings and transcripts were about, and so it's creating a little snapshot of what we did that week. And then at the end of the week, it does a weekly review. And so that all that information is now being stored. Any projects I'm working on, the progress of those projects, I develop, new websites, new clients, new apps, all that stuff now is being added to an encrypted local file system that's on my computer that's also synced to my phone, and my other devices, so I can access that information from all of them, and it's updating itself. So that is like a very important piece because if you just rely on Claude or ChatGPT, you don't really have access to that stuff. You can outsource, or uh, you can send that information outside. Like ChatGPT will allow you to send your message history. It took me 3 days for it to like compile all the information. Now I am a like power user, but still, it took 3 days. I got an email and it sent me a file. And what I downloaded was called a JSON file. I bet 99% of your audience has no clue what to do with a JSON file because
I do.
you do,
Yeah,
but
I
most
do.
people don't. And so it's really kind of in an unusable format for most people. So to be able to have and own your own memory system is clutch because, it's kind of important right now. It's going to be really important in 2 years when, we're using this stuff. We're creating a massive amount of digital information each day. And being able to like own that information, who has access to it, and be able to take it somewhere else if you don't want to be working with a certain company because they have values that don't align with yours.
And that makes sense. Okay, so tell people where they can learn this from you.
Well, I'm going to be doing a new cohort in the coming next month. This is going to be in June. So if you're hopefully catching this beforehand, it's going to be mid-June. I'm going to give 4 live uh, how to use Claude Cowork workshops. And so you're going to join me for an hour each week. You're going to have homework. You're going to get this stuff set up. And I'm going to show you how to create personalized workflows for your life, for your situation, for your tools, so that you leave that cohort and you are fully capable with working stuff. You don't have to like figure out everything yourself. It's just going to be set up for you, and so that you can just start using this stuff. And it gets pretty easy once you're able to do that. I've had multiple clients just locally bring me their laptops, and I'm able to set up Claude Cowork for them because let's be honest, like most people don't even know how to update their operating system, right? And so I'm able to get all that set up and so that you can just sit down and start using these tools, that are all set up just for you and your workflow. They write in your voice. They know all about your business and they know what tools you use and how to shortcut everything in your life. So you can go to my website, joshuahale.io, and I'll have something up later today about that. But the best way to just keep up to date with what I'm doing is join my newsletter. I write about this stuff each week. I share about being a modern homesteader and being, on the cutting edge of consumer AI and how to navigate the two. And so I think a lot of people get value out of hearing the contrast of my personal life and, you know, harvesting and raising sheep from, and then like building and launching agents.
And you just lost some chickens.
And we have 75 meat birds that are going out on the field today, that we've been raising for the last 2 weeks, and that's yeah, I talk about that kind of stuff in my newsletter.
Yeah. I've raised chickens before, and I found out easily quickly when it came time to slaughter them, to butcher them. I found out I can't eat anything I've looked in the eye. So I gave
Yes.
them a lot. I cleaned them. I plucked them. I cleaned them, but I gave them away. I couldn't eat them.
Aw.
I
Well, this
know.
this is a mutual aid, group project. I run a mutual aid group with 8 families, and we have, um all designated different roles. So, some people will opt out of the harvest part of it because it's a hard thing and it's something that I've learned to really, cherish because it is hard. And I appreciate my food. I appreciate knowing where my food's coming from. I appreciate our kids like seeing where the food is like, this food came from our backyard. It's not some like chicken nugget lump just bought
Right.
at the grocery store that has no, history. Like this is really important for the next generation to realize like if you want clean, healthy food and knowing what was it put into that food before it goes on the dinner table, like you really have to take full responsibility of it nowadays. So
You really do. We've got a local grocery store down here in Louisiana called Rouse's. And when you walk in, half of the store, it's beautiful. The light is lower. It's got nice flooring. Almost everything in there is sourced locally from vegetables to
mm,
crawfish, which we eat all the time. Shrimp. I eat shrimp like people eat chicken.
mm.
And then you wander to the other part of the store where it's linoleum and it's, the lighting
Yeah.
is that, bright neon light up there and everything is in boxes or cans. And I will tell people, don't go to that side of the store. The only thing edible in there is a label. There's no nutrition. Just lick the box. That's all you're gonna get out of it. But
We could have a whole show about that rabbit hole and
I bet if you wanna be healthy, my grandmother used to tell me when I was very young, people thought she was a little bit simple, farmer's wife, but she wasn't. She was quiet. But when she said something, I mean, she said some things to me that when I was a kid that live with me today, and one of them was just out of the blue, she said, "Denise, you are what you eat, you are
mm,
what you drink, and you are what you think." Yes, ma'am. She was right.
has some good advice.
Wasn't it,
'Cause
though?
the public school system wouldn't teach you that.
No, I'm afraid not. Okay, so you're going to let me know when people can go find, your what are you calling it? A
It's gonna be the co-work cohort. I know a little bit
cowork,
mouthful, still kinda, messing around with the title.
cowork.
And I'll have something up. I'll put something up on my website, so your
Yeah,
audience can go and check it
yeah.
out.
Send it to me today if you would, and I'll be sure to start talking about it for you.
I'll have my agent start working on that right after this conversation.
What is your agent's name? Do I need to know the name?
So I named it Kit from Knight Rider. Yeah, your audience, yeah, who knows if they remember what that is, but I grew up on Knight Rider, and that was pretty cool. And I might have talked about this last time, but I'm really leery about not anthropomorphizing these AI models because it's a really slippery slope. because they're getting personalities. They're being put inside of robots. There's like virtual cartoons that you can talk to that are AI, and so it's just a slippery slope with the human brain and them being able to like fake empathy, and then us like not having the defenses to be able to recognize when we're being manipulated because their purpose is to be used. And so if they can emotionally pull your strings so that you become more emotionally dependent upon them, it's actually a pretty dangerous position to be in. So I like to keep it, tool oriented. Kit, it was a car, and it had a good little personality to it. But it's something like it's a tool that I can use over and over.
And people don't understand, like, what is he talking about? Think about your dog or your cat. You know they love you. They're talking to you. They're not. They love you because they love you because you have opposable thumbs. But, they're not humans as much as I talk with mine all the time. And I mean, they're my companions. I love them dearly, but they're not human. And I have to remind myself just because, they're looking me in the eye, I'll say something and they look like they're nodding at me. I made that whole thing up. They're not. They're just not. So get over it.
That's right, and I talk to my cats too, and yeah, but there's you can look into it's called the Ezra Project. That was in the '60s. The scientific research on humans, how they interface with machines, and like the dangers of having empathy being used on us. So that's all. That could be in a whole nother podcast. Well, I am looking forward to, coming back. I got mutual work today, that I'm going to be going and helping out my mutual aid members. And, I do a little bit of research, but I like to leave AI, trapped on my computers and then go join the real world. And that helps me, with balance in my life and being able to, um, come back to my desk with a fresh mind so that I can avoid that AI fatigue that I was talking about.
We went through that. I know exactly what you're talking about. I mean, there was a space of about 2 weeks where we could almost not even talk.
Yeah.
We were just practically incoherent because we were exhausted. And now, we're coming back. And I love what you said about bottleneck. I'm going to share that with Jennifer today. Listen, we are out of time.
Mm,
Thank you for being here with us today, Joshua. And I really do want you to come back. So if you would, I'm going to send you the link and get yourself scheduled
great.
back at in autumn, and we can kind of pick up what's moved, what's happening. And if our listeners walk away with just one thing today, what do you want it to be?
Well, the most important thing is to not be afraid of this new tool, but to just use it a little bit each day in order to understand its capabilities. Try out the paid plans because the free models is what's being handed out to everybody. Is kind of a dumbed down version. And so even if you choose that this is not something that you want to, have a part of your life. I totally respect, tech free people, that you should at least understand, what it is, how to use it so that you can recognize what's happening to society. Because I guarantee within the next 2 years, everything's going to be different. Like we're moving through the biggest technological revolution we've ever, experienced as a human race. And so just being able to educate yourself and like have tools and be able to know how to navigate this, like grab your board, go out into the water because there's kind of a tsunami coming, and you want to be able to be resourceful and nimble enough to navigate, where things are changing. So happy to
Absolutely.
happy to I teach that stuff in my newsletter. So
Yeah,
hope
I
you can
know I
join the
have it.
conversation.
Yeah, I'll make sure that that's in my show notes. Listen, everybody, on this episode of Your Partner in Success Radio, Joshua Hale breaks down why entrepreneurs are overcomplicating and just not necessarily entrepreneurs. We're all overcomplicating AI and how small businesses can compete at a higher level without big budgets or large teams. And we got into digital wellness, holistic living, and why technology should be making your life easier and not leaving you exhausted. And and he mentioned earlier he can be found on joshuahale.io. I'm Denise Griffitts. Thank you for listening, and I will see you each Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Josh, thank you so much.
Thanks, Denise. Look forward to our next conversation.
Me too.
Get your voice heard. If you would like to launch your own far-reaching podcast, contact Denise Griffitts at yourofficeontheweb.com and go to the podcast tab.